Okay, so on the bench today is an exploded hand mic. The customer sent, I wasn't expecting this. Somebody I've done work before, work for before, sent this in with a note. Actually, it says, "I am sending you an ADI microphone. It needs a new cord. Looks like the rubber dried out, and the rest is history." So yes. And actually, it's even gone. I've already cut the cord off. It's in the scrap bin. Like a lot of these modern, cheap Chinese radios, the cords that they put on these microphones, I don't know what kind of brittle plastic it is they make these things out of. Actually, there's some still inside the plastic tubing, the clear plastic tubing they put on here, kind of as a strain relief. But yeah, this stuff is just... it just disintegrates. You can see it just crumbles. It just falls apart, and that's exactly what happens. There was probably more exposed wire on that original cord than there was insulation left on it. it just exploded. Now I'm not exactly sure what model radio it was for, but apparently I guess all of the ADI radios that take this stuff, and they're just cheap Chinese radios. They're like $100 to $200. Good grief, all these little buttons are falling out here. Anyhow, they all seem to do this. And apparently there's no replacement parts. Well, I guess from what my understanding is, they don't even make amateur radios anymore. Not a good sign. I mean, they were cheap to start with. I guess so. But anyhow, they don't... there's no replacement parts available. And the cord, yeah, it's kind of an oddball cord. The main problem is how many conductors there are. Because, of course, there's more than just like a push-to-talk, an audio, and a shield. It has a keypad built in with lots of features, so it needs extra lines. And as you can see, it's actually a fairly advanced little microphone. There's a lot of stuff going on inside of this. You've got two buttons on the top, which are the two little pieces that fell out there, the actual buttons. But there's two push buttons right here. You've got this keypad. It's a there's actually dual circuit boards. There's one circuit board down there, which is for the keypad. Then there's a circuit board back here with a lot of active components, even including an IC right there. So yeah, there's a lot. And there's a slide switch. I think that's a lock. Yeah, that just says lock on the back. So I'm assuming when you slide that to the lock position, it disables the keypad, so you can't accidentally change channels or frequency while you're using a radio. Like I say, the problem is microphone cord. The big problem is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 conductors, because there's one wrapped up in this, the audio, and a shield. It's 6 conductors and a shield. And it's fairly small in diameter. The only cords that I had that were the same diameter as the cord for this microphone were 5 wires and a shield. That's not enough wires. The cords that I have that have 8 or more, because I don't have any that have, or 6, what did I say? Whatever it was, it's 6, yeah, 6 conductors. Yeah, I had a 6 conductor, but it's way too big. And yeah, all the other ones I have, like 8 conductor and all those other ones, they were just huge cords, just way too fat. The problem isn't this end. I don't really care how wide the cord is. I can get it in there. This expands. The problem is this has a custom molded piece on the bottom, right here. That's what and actually it's molded on. So this was all one piece originally. This was molded onto the cord that went through this. So what I did was I just whacked the cord off the back side of it, was able to just grab these wires here and basically pull the wires out. And I was trying to do it with a pair of needle nose pliers, and that's kind of why I started this video, just to show anybody else if you have one of these. Because I even asked Buddy over at the radio shop here on YouTube, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got one of those, Mike." And the microphone cord, I know exactly what you're talking about. The cord disintegrated, and there is no replacement, and he hasn't been able to find a replacement for it. So I've come up with a way I think we can get this to work. So the first thing you need to do is you need to keep your strain relief here. Okay, you're going to need to use this again because I can't find a cord with this exact strain relief on the end with enough wires. So like I say, cut the cord off. It's no good anyhow. Unscrew your microphone. 2 screws at the bottom, 1 at the top. And actually this one had the mic hanger here at the top. And then just grab the wires. You'll be able to just pull the wires out. Now there's still going to be this, the outer actual wrapping of the cord in there. I was trying to get that out with a pair of needle nose pliers. Well, yeah, they also add some glue or whatnot to it in there. And yeah, it wasn't coming out. I got a few pieces out of each end, and that was pretty much it. So, drill bit. Popped, matter of fact, there's the rest of it. It just kind of pushed out, and there's some of the, the shavings that came out with it. But yeah, so just a 3/16 drill bit, just stuck it in there literally, and and it just popped right out the other end. So now we've got that cleaned out. Now, what am I going to use for a replacement? So I did some searching, and I went to, when all else fails, it's kind of like a lot of times I run into nowadays. All else fails, you need the impossible to get part. Where's the first place I go to? eBay. So there's our replacement cord. Now, it's not the right cord. It is absolutely not designed for use with this. But it meets two key requirements. It's got enough wires, and it's thin enough that it will fit into this original strain relief. That's the only two things I care about. So what this actually is a Uniden microphone cord. I think this is actually probably, I'd have to pull one of mine out. I don't know where the heck one of my bass units is. There it is. Let me grab hold of one. I think this might be, yes, I do believe this is a factory cord. If I'm not mistaken, hold on a second. Yes, I'm going to say this is a factory replacement cord for this right here. A Uniden wireless microphone. You notice, has the same end. See the print style right there? That's exactly the same. The strain relief is the same, and I've had this apart before, and I know it has a plug just like that. So yes, this cord is actually a replacement cord for the Uniden wireless microphone cradle. That's what that cord is actually for. Like I say, found it on eBay. Just went on there looking through microphone cords, and luckily ran across somebody that had these, and I hadn't even considered this. Like I say, I have some of those wireless microphones, and I was like, main thing was, I'm looking at the pictures, counting the wires. So it has actually, I think, one more than I need. I got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a shield. The shield's actually in a piece of heat shrink tubing right there, the black one there in the middle, the big one. So it actually has one wire more than I need. That's perfect. Next problem is, now getting this off, I'll just take my razor knife. I'll just cut this piece of plastic to get their strain relief off, because it is the incorrect one. This cord end has to go, it's wrong. It's different, of course it's more pins, but it's also larger pin spacing than the one that's used in this. And that's where I'm going to run into my next problem is making how to get this attached to this. I may just solder the wires on. I may actually remove the socket. It's probably going to be the easiest way. I could try cutting this cord off, crimping the pins on, extracting the original pins out of that plug. Honestly, it's going to be easier just to actually just hard solder that on there, because this cord is not made from the stuff like this one that disintegrates in just a handful of years. But if you're going to do one of these, this is not an easy process. So, for starters, you got to get this far. Tear the microphone apart, remove everything out of the original strain relief off of the microphone. There are then 3 screws. Go down through this circuit board. So there's one there, hole there. Then you'll have to, this just pulls up and out. This is the little, for the 2 top buttons, which actually you saw fall out. You'll need to pull that up, and then there's another screw underneath that flat cable there. Now, you still can't get the circuit board out. It's in there. It is not coming out. The reason it will not come out is because, let me grab a pointer, the circuit board that's down in here, and you'll see once I get this off, the circuit board that's under here for this keypad is permanently attached to the plastic face on this microphone. There is no way to get that circuit board out. And this circuit board, through these header sockets right here, or header pins, this board is soldered to the bottom board. So that's the next thing I need to do. I need to desolder all of these header pins, and these, it looks like, I'm actually just trying to peek down through there. Kind of hard to see down in that hole there. Yeah, think that looks like that's it. Yeah, so I've got that row of pins right there and those pins right there. So let me pause the video. Got the desoldering iron turned on over there. Let me get all those desoldered, and I'll get this board pulled out and show you what she looks like. So hold on a second. Okay, so success. Like I said, thought there was just 2 rows and that's all it is. Now, if you're going to do this, I can pretty much tell you you're going to have a desoldering iron to do this. Both sets of these on this circuit board, these are through-plated holes. So yeah, just trying some, I don't know, you might be able to get it with some desoldering wick. You can try, but ideally you should have, a proper type, desoldering, vacuum desoldering tool to do it. You can try with, like I say, with desoldering braid. One of the big tricks to using something like, I use it, don't get me wrong. It's not like I've got plenty of rolls of this stuff. Actually, this is an old one I just keep refilling because I buy the big spools of it. But something that can help you when you're using desoldering braid, a lot of times trying to draw solder up out of stuff like this. If you've got through-plated holes, add some extra flux. So, I've got bottles and jars and tubes and just all kinds of flux. Just take any liquid flux. There's an RA or rosin activated. Here's a milder flux. But just take a little bit of liquid flux and add that to your desoldering braid. A lot of times, if you're having problems trying to draw the solder out of a through-plated hole like that with desoldering braid, a little bit of flux will help with that. It'll actually help to draw the solder up to the braid a little bit better. Also, just a quick note, if you have old desoldering braid, if you've ever got an old roll at an auction or in a lot or something, and you've tried to use it and it doesn't work, that works with that as well. And that's what's happened, is the flux has basically died, possibly over the decades, depending how old your braid is. You add some liquid flux to it, so as you're using it, as you pull some out, just take I put it in these little fingernail polish bottles, but just brush a little bit on there to basically moisten it, and you'll find it'll start working fine again. You just need to rejuvenate it with some fresh flux. But like I say, ideally you should be using a desoldering iron. So yeah, I think I'm just going to pull this off, this header socket here, or this socket and this plug. It's probably going to be the easiest way for me to get this, because if I cut that cord to the exact right length, and then just even the slightest bit, I screw up one of those crimp connectors and have to start over and cut off a little bit more of the wire, well then it'll be too short, because there's really no room to play around with down here. Where the cord comes out of this strain relief, where it comes in, there's not much room from here to here, and you don't have a lot of room to be balling up excess wire inside of this thing. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be the best bet, is just directly solder the wires down to the circuit board. So let me get that sucked off, and next time I come back, we'll start the video up again. I should have the cord should be in the strain relief. I'll have this one off, and I'll show you with that cut off. I'll have this chopped down, strain relief on there, and these wires will be soldered to the board and ready to put back together. So give me a few more minutes. Okay. Wow, is this ever a pain in the hoo-ha? So, it's pretty much ready to put back together. You can see we now have a cord attached directly to the board. So, right there's the original plug and socket that came off of there. Yeah, like I say, all it would take would be one miscrimp and have to shorten the wire, and I wouldn't have enough wire. And yeah, it just... Great when you can do stuff like that at the factory, but yeah, trying to do that by hand with those tiny, because that's a very fine pitch socket with those little tiny pins. There's no need to be taking a chance. I can just solder them directly to the board. And the wires in this cord are actually a little bit heavier gauge. Actually, I wouldn't even go, I'd probably say more than a little bit. Actually, they're probably 3 times heavier. There's 3 times more actual wire to these. So yeah, it's plenty rigid enough to solder directly to that. Got the microphone plug changed over. And one thing of note, this is the one that came on the new cord. Like I say, that's for a Bearcat wireless microphone. They're made by the same company. I gotta hold it up here so I can see it. It's what PLT is actually. I don't never focus on it, but right there towards the top it actually says PLT. You can just barely see it right there, right by the little alignment notch. It's actually the same exact thing that's on this one. So they're made by the same company. But yeah, so I took the plug off of at least the little stubs of the wires where I'd cut it off. Stuck that on the new cord. Now, when I installed it on here, I cut the end off. That's the end that was on this new cord. I had to shorten the wires up a considerable bit. And I wanted to strip back because I was actually wrong. There's one less wire in this cord than I thought there was. If you look at this plug here, something to point with, there's a gray wire right there and a gray wire right there. That's not two separate wires in this cord. Somewhere in this pile, in fact it's right there, they joined together to a single gray wire. So yeah, which actually worked out perfect because it had the exact amount of wires that I needed for this. So yeah, being short one wire didn't hurt me. It actually meant that I did not have an extra wire left over. But anyhow, once I got, so I had to actually strip a little bit more insulation off of this outer jacket here, so I could, because that gray wire was only right there, I didn't have enough. But something interesting, when I stripped the jacket off of this cord, there's actually two layers on these cords. There's this outer jacket that you see, which just kind of reminds me of I think that's a piece of it right there, is it? Yeah. This is kind of like a more durable plastic, very slippery and shiny, as you can see, but a little bit stiff, but it's extremely thin. And then once you strip that off, there's a second layer, and this one is very rubbery. It actually stretches. So yeah, there's actually, these Uniden cords are a double layer. So, and they're nice and flexible, but yep, so there you go. So I'll probably stop the video here because there's really not much else to show, but oh, and when I did slide this on, and of course, try to remember to put that on before you solder the cord to the board. It's just like a microphone plug. I know people do that. I hear horror stories from people, oh, Mike, I got it all assembled, and then I realized I forgot to slide this part on first. Yeah, so anytime you're soldering stuff on the end of cords, always make sure you install stuff like this first, or in the case of this, the strain relief. But it's perfect fit. I swear this cord is the exact diameter as the originals. It couldn't have been a much better fit. But I wanted to make sure that this was permanently attached to this, that it couldn't slide around, because it's not just a strain relief for flexing. I also don't want you to be able to, to pull the cord out and then risk being able to rip these wires off of that circuit board. So I just took a little dot of super glue. Once I got it in a little bit, I ran a little bit of super glue gel around the outside edge of it and then slid it up in, so they're glued together. So that can't be pulled off. But, now this cord should last considerably longer than that cheap cord that was originally on it. But if in the future sometime it would ever need to be replaced again, even though it's glued in there, you can just do the same exact thing that I did. Just cut it off flush at the end, pull the wires out, take a 3/16 drill bit, straight through the center, and you'd be right back to the start again, and you could just start over and slide a new cord into it again. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, the impossible to get cord, you can make one if you're determined and to do it. Just get a replacement cord for a base station, or for one of the Uniden Bearcat wireless microphones. The cord that goes on the base module, like I showed previously in the video, that cord is the right diameter, has exactly the right number of wires. Now, the wires are a different color. Most of them are the same, or at least a lot of them. You have a white for your audio and a shield. Now there's actually two whites on this Uniden cord. There's one that's a little bit thicker and heavier jacket. That's actually the one in this cord that has the shield wrapped around it. Then there's a slightly smaller, actually that's the only one that's a really heavy gauge, and then all the rest of them are the next gauge down in size. But I actually had to make a little chart here. Oh, come on, if I can get it picked up here off the bench, it's kind of stuck. I had original and new. So, original had a blue, green, and a brown, which this cord, there is no blue, green, and brown. So I just made them gray, orange, and white. But yeah, anytime you're doing stuff like that, when you're changing wire colors, do yourself a favor. Before you cut anything, you start removing all of the wires off of the old microphone, the old plug off the end, or anything like that. Always be sure to write your diagram down first that you want to use blue in place of gray, green and orange, brown and white. So, I just randomly picked colors to stick on. I used the same colors for some of them, but then, like I say, the other ones, just make sure you write that down. So when I removed the blue wire off of this original plug, I put the gray wire. I just picked a random, unused wire color. I just picked the gray, soldered that to that terminal, but make sure you write that down. Like I say, that way it'll save you the headache when you get up here to this end of the board and you now need to attach the rest of the wires and you realize, oh crap, they're different. Which ones were which? Kind of like putting this piece on a microphone cord before you solder the end on. Yeah, you don't. It's the same thing with this. You don't want to remember after the fact. It's make it a lot more difficult. So there you go. It is possible to replace the microphone cords on these ADI amateur radios. I'm not sure if these are probably. I think it's been so long since I've seen one of these radios. I think they're 2-meter rigs, if I'm not mistaken. They might even be dual band radios. I think they made 2-meter just seems to stick in my head. But yeah, if you have one of them, looks like this with that strain relief, and you've got that self-destructing microphone cord, there's your solution. Have at it and have fun. It is a pain in the butt doing this. So enjoy.